Hey, welcome back, travel besties. If you're here today, we will be talking about how do you become a digital nomad, but most importantly, how did I live abroad for a month? What are some tips and tricks for you to also do the same? So if you're new here, Cultural Connect, we're a travel channel that cover things from tips and tricks, connecting to real people in real time, and most importantly, highlighting the culture. Make sure you stay to the end of this video because I will be sharing my top 5 things for you to do. So last summer, I spent a month abroad and we spent time in Italy, France, which I've been to both those places before, London, and then we also stopped off in Aruba. So it was a wild summer. I've been a traveler for a long time. I really enjoy water, so I'm usually somewhere in the Caribbean. How do you actually do this? How does it make sense? I used to think in order to be a nomad, you needed to have a ton of money saved or some sort of connections with other people in that area, which, don't get me wrong, both are good. But in terms of savings, I am not here telling you to pour your entire savings into travel. What I'm here telling you is that if you are intentional and you set an actual budget to your saving goals for where you want to go, it's possible. Tip number 1. I think the most important thing for you to do is to decide where you want to go. So do you want to spend time somewhere warm? Are you looking for an experience where you can be immersed in the culture? Of course, every place you can do that, but some places I think do that a little bit better. Are you trying to challenge your perspective? Do you want a place where you can do a little bit of partying? Or are you just really looking to relax? I think starting with the fundamentals, what kind of experience do you want? The second thing is thinking about, is this a group trip or is it a solo trip? And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that is a very important question, because whether it's a group trip or a solo trip will drastically change how you need to plan and how you need to think about this. I've been on both. I do spend a lot of time traveling, either with friends, family, or my partner. That's really the 3 people that I kind of stick to. I do prefer smaller groups, but I have been on bigger group trips, and we can talk about both. But for the sake of this vlog, we're gonna be focused on the summer and what was actually done to make the entire month a success. The next thing is thinking about logistics, which I know people hate talking about logistics, but if you are a person who is really strong in logistics, you're gonna do this really well. If this is not your jam, then definitely listen in for the tips. I think this will help you with your planning. So 1, you wanna think about how long will you be gone, right? Are you gonna be going for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, etc. That's super important because when you're building out your budget and figuring out where you want to actually stay, taking into account how long you're going to be in a location will drastically change whether or not you're going to stay in a hotel, a hostel, Airbnb, somewhere with a kitchen, somewhere that doesn't have one. For me, we were deciding on an entire month, and so I knew that we would need to be flexible on, the locations of where we were going to go. The next is thinking about fundamental costs, right? So your foundational things, hotel or lodging, food, and sanitary things. Because let me be clear, sometimes when you're on the road, you forget how much you have easy access to some of this stuff in the United States, and once you leave, it is not the same. And in terms of cost, things vary. So unless you're gonna travel really heavy and plan to have everything you ever need, you need to map out and leave space for things that you haven't thought about. The other thing is, most important, book your flight, okay? I know some people like to map out everything first, make sure everything's set aside, and then think about booking flights. I don't recommend that. I think that the flights change most frequently compared to other things. So most likely, yes, a hotel may change depending on the days you book, but a flight can drastically shift from month to month. So if you already know where you want to go, the first thing is to think about, what is your touchdown spot? So for us, the touchdown space was France. We knew we were going to book a round trip from New York to France in that given timeline of the month, and knowing that if we needed to make any changes, at least we knew where our touchdown space was. So I would take some time to think about what's going to be your touchdown spot. Is it easier for you to book a round trip, and then once you get to the location, you can take trains, obviously in the case of Europe, book shorter flights, really budgeting for that kind of stuff. For us, because we knew we were going to go to these specific places and we had already been, it was easy to know basically how much everything was going to cost. So if we were going to book a round trip, which usually from New York, we're lucky this hub gets a lot of international flights, and so it's super easy to book round trip between here and the UK or here and France. I would say, I think if you want to sit in premium economy on Air France, if you look early enough, you can book a round trip between like anywhere from $500 to $800, just depending on when you look. If you are very specific and you want to book a specific airline, then that's even more reason to start earlier. I am true to Delta. I love Delta. I have all the points on Delta. And it really helps me because when we are traveling, it makes it easier for me to make changes. I have miles with them, and so they're really receptive to wanting to make sure that I stay a loyal customer. I am gold, so if you have any statuses with any of your airlines, I would say start with your airline that you're most loyal to. And if that doesn't work, depending on your location, because there are some flights, don't forget that the main flight companies also have other airlines under them, so you could still book. But if you do need to book somewhere else, then just thinking about your touchdown spot is most important. What will be your round trip? And then depending on where you're going, figuring out how easy will it be to travel? Do you need to rent a car? Are you gonna take the bus, the train? Like, what's gonna be your means to get to your next in-between locations? The next thing is deciding on how you're gonna backpack. Are you gonna be packing just a light luggage, a carry-on? Are you gonna make sure you have every single thing known to mankind in your bag? Are you gonna have equipment? So depending on if you're gonna go there and you're planning to film or record anything, you wanna take into account those things as well. For us, we made the mistake of traveling really heavy at first, like super heavy. Like I think we each had a big suitcase plus a book bag, and I had another like side book bag so I could get 2 items on the plane and then one that I checked. I know, it was bad. I like to pack to match outfits and have like different things that I want to wear for our different photo shoots. And if I had to do it again, and when we do this again, I am gonna make sure that I only pick like maybe 2 shoes, because shoes are the heaviest. And there were so many times we got to the airport and they're like, ma'am, your bag is overweight. So don't let that happen to you, because if you don't have loyalty points, you're not gonna get through, and you're gonna have to pay extra, and that's gonna eat away at your budget that you actually need to survive for the entire month. That's another thing to take into account. The next thing is, of course, building out your budget. So I get this question a lot, like, how much money do I need? And really it depends, again, on all the other questions I already gave you all, like thinking about where you're going, how long you're gonna be there, and what kind of traveler you are. Some people are okay eating light, eating local. Some people wanna have high-end luxury meals. Depending on what kind of traveler you are, that will make or break your budget. For me, I set the goal for making sure we had at least $10,000 to start in order to actually get us to where we needed to get to. And that was supposed to cover our flight and travel, food, and hotel accommodations. And of course, having like backup travel cards. If you do have any travel credit cards, I think that's the perfect time to have them as backup for like holding if you are gonna do hotels. I really like small boutique hotels, and if you are staying at a hotel, they're going to ask for a security deposit, and that could tie up your travel money. So it's really important to have a card that you don't have to worry about it, don't need it, and can kind of use that. If you don't have that and you plan to do more of like a Airbnb style, just make sure that in those locations, you're very clear on the regulations that Airbnb has in that specific place. Because the last thing you want to do is book something and assuming that it operates similar to what you experience maybe in your home state, and there can be a lot of rules and changes based on the owner. And then in terms of like determining food, for us, when we were in France, we opted for more commercial eating, mainly because of taste. I just think it was easier for us to eat at places like where we knew that there was a specific price for pizza or sandwiches or burgers. So we ate a lot of American food in fast chain restaurants. So that kind of freed up our money, and then just leaving a few dollars for like actual restaurants or wine tasting, it wasn't too bad. Paris is really expensive. It's pretty similar to New York, so it wasn't shocking for us, but just take that into account if you are thinking about making that trip. In London, we ate definitely more high-end. We went to a lot of rooftops, which you'll see in the next video. That's all focused on everything London experience. And it was really nice, but we definitely spent a lot more money in London. but that was because we were able to save on the hotel. So we stayed at a small boutique hotel called Ventry and Mercer, which we'll also do a review on that, because I kid you not, it was like one of the best hotels I've ever stayed at for that price, and we were there for an entire week. And I'm talking plush robes and everything, like, and not for what I thought, you know, a cost would be if you tried to stay at New York in an establishment like that. So that's another thing. And then when we went to Italy, that was probably the cheapest, honestly, when it came to food, because we stayed in the local area. If you watched our earlier video, you noticed that we were in a town called Jeslo, and we were eating and drinking wine. It was really nice. But for that location, we're able to go and get really locally sourced food, fresh fish, fresh vegetables. I am a foodie, so I will not steer you wrong. I do not believe in going places and just eating whatever. That, if that's your jam, that's your jam, but it's not mine. So yeah, so that was sort of the food. The next thing that you want to do is really think about, if you have an opportunity, and this is only if you want this type of trip, figure out if you are able to work while you're abroad. So if you do have a skill set, whether that's filming, photography, making cakes, doing hair, makeup, whatever. If you have a skill set that you think can be marketed abroad and you're gonna plan to be somewhere longer, especially if you're gonna stay in one country for a long time and not really hop around, definitely try to make some extra cash. We were lucky that we were able to do that on the road when we were in France. We ran into some people. Every day was so, like, honestly really random. Like, we would go out and just have no agenda and just say like, hey, we're gonna go walk around, maybe eat some good food, just be. And I mean, that was really the vibe that we wanted. And the amount of people that we met, other creatives that were traveling, other people who were local there. We ran into a designer. This guy was just opening up a sunglass shop, and he is from an African country, but he lives in Paris, and he was great. Basically just opened his shop to us, and we went in just to go look at glasses, not knowing that we were in a place that wasn't even open yet. And he's really sweet and basically shared like, hey, I see that you all are taking pictures, doing videos. Do you think you could help me with a few product shots? Boom. Able to do an entire shoot while in France. So if you do have a certain skill set and you're able to monetize that abroad, I would say do that, because you can never have too much money while you're not at home. But yeah, I mean, the next thing is to just do it. Just do it. So I will be sharing more. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to our channel. We will be sharing more later this week or next week about our trip to London. We met some dope Black chefs and tried to do everything from that experience in the UK. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining. Bye.